the government called him names, froze his bank account, and brought in an Emergency Act attack on his freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, people feel like they've lost control of their lives. You know, Mark Twain said, the two most important days in your life, the day you were born and the day you find out why you were born. Why is the most important question you'll ever ask whenever you do anything. So why am I running for Prime Minister? I'm running for Prime Minister to put you back in charge of your life so that by making Canada the freest nation on earth. And that means giving you back your medical freedom. Let's end these vaccine mandates. You know, it's not just medical freedom. People feel like they've lost their economic freedom. You might be the single mother who's skipping meals so that your kids don't have to, because food price inflation means that 4 in 5 families have now to cut back on their diets. Or you might be the guy I met in Northern Ontario who can't go and see his parents one last time in Thunder Bay because he can't afford $2.25 a liter diesel to fill up his truck to get there. Or you might be the 32-year-old living in your mom's basement because house prices have doubled. You know, I was recently in BC and I asked the crowd, how do you even bring home a date when you're living in your mom's basement? And she said, very carefully. So, when I was a teenager, we went through the side window. That was the solution. But seriously, you can think about what it does to a person's psyche when they, that's a good question. How much? I like that. The how much question is over here. Yeah, just the dollar figure. Just the dollar figure. Exactly right. Listen, come on over here. Come on, listen to this. How much? It's a good question, eh? I asked Justin Trudeau how much money he got from the We organization. He couldn't keep track, right? And then I asked Jean Charest how much he got from Huawei, and he couldn't keep track either.
Just playing Harper!
And that's right, they both just playing Harper. It's something about liberals, right? They're good at taking money, they're not very good at telling you how much they took, right? Anyway, speaking of how much, it now costs $874,000 for the average house in Canada. Inflation is at a 30-year high. Why is this happening?
Printing money!
Exactly, printing money. That's right. The cost of government is driving up the cost of living. Inflationary deficits have doubled the size of the national debt and set $500 billion, bidding up the price of goods and services. Inflationary taxes have made it more expensive for businesses to produce those goods and services. The more they spend, the more things cost. It's just inflation, right? So what are we going to do about it? First of all, we're going to get rid of the deficits that caused the money printing and taxes in the first place. We will balance the budget in this country again. I will axe Trudeau's $100 billion slush fund. He's got this infrastructure bank now. We need infrastructure. We don't need a bank. What's the bank for? To protect the profits of corporations that go over budget on projects. Listen, I believe in the free market. If a company delivers a product on time, on budget, let them profit. However, if they go over budget, they should pay the price. Taxpayers should not bail them out. I would get rid of that. And I've got another idea to save $1 billion. Why don't we defund the CBC? You got to get your party membership so that you can vote in the leadership race. No membership, no vote. No vote, I don't get to become Prime Minister. Who's going to get their membership today? You know, we're going to run the finances of the country the way you run your finances at home. If you bring in an extra $1 of spending, you find $1 of savings to pay for it. That's the law. That's the law of scarcity, right? It's the most important law in economics. The most important law in politics is to ignore the most important law of economics, right? Every creature in the universe has to live with scarcity. The microbe on the ground, the birds in the trees, the fish in the seas, they all have to maximize the use of scarce resources. Every creature except the politician, who just passes his scarcity on to everyone else with more taxes, borrowing, and inflation. I'm going to bring that scarcity back to the politician by passing a pay-as-you-go law that requires the government to find $1 of savings for every additional dollar of spending, so that we can cap the cost of government and make our government affordable to you, the taxpayer. And then there's the carbon tax, which we were told. Now, of course, Patrick Brown supports the carbon tax. He claimed he was against it. Then when he was temporarily PC leader before losing that job in disgrace, he changed his mind and endorsed the carbon tax. Jean Charest brought in the carbon tax in Quebec. That's why gas is so expensive in that province. My position has always been clear, and it has never changed. I'm against the tax, and I will axe the carbon tax when I'm president. Its job. Its job is to keep inflation low at 2%. Now, inflation is 6.7%. The Governor of the Bank of Canada agreed to do Justin Trudeau's bidding, agreed to become Trudeau's personal ATM and print $400 million in order to fund Trudeau's deficits. He should have been independent. He should have said, no, Mr. Prime Minister, if you want to borrow money, you find a way to do that on your own, because my printing presses are not going to be used to inflate the cost of food, housing, and gas for the Canadian people. My job is to keep inflation low. Instead, he agreed to do what Trudeau asked, he gave up his independence, and as a result, when I'm Prime Minister, I will fire the bank governor and replace him. That I suggested that last week. But you know, those same elites would have no problem if a waitress made a mistake and lost her job, or a welder, or a truck driver. In fact, they've had no problem killing the jobs of millions of people simply for a medical decision. Yet they don't have, they think that powerful big shot bankers and bureaucrats should keep their jobs when they do them badly. Not in my Canada. People will be held accountable. Do your job. About bringing the central bank digital currency, right? Anybody here trust the government with your bank deposits? They'll manipulate those deposits, they'll favor political friends, they'll cause even more inflation, and they will surveil the expenditures that you make. Ladies and gentlemen, I will ban the central bank digital currency. More cash, what we need to do is create more of what cash buys, grow more food, produce more Canadian energy. Including LNG, that's right. And frankly, build more homes, right? Build more houses. How are we going to do it? We've got to get the gatekeepers out of the way. The gatekeepers have prevented us from providing for ourselves. You know, think about it. We live in the second biggest country in the world. We have the fewest houses per capita in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. Why? Local government gatekeepers prevent construction with taxes, delays, permitting obstacles. You have to hire consultants and lawyers. In Toronto, $250,000 of each house is just the cost of government. In Vancouver, it's $650,000. Then you got the big city mayors coming to politicians in Ottawa asking for more tax dollars for infrastructure and housing. So here's how it's going to work. They're not going to get from anything what they want from me unless the working class people get what they want from them. And that is to remove the gatekeepers, allow builders to build and produce more homes. And here's how it works. Infrastructure dollars from the federal government will be tied to the number of houses that actually get built. I will sell off 15% of the underutilized 37,000 federal buildings. They were underutilized before COVID, and many of them are outright empty now that people are working remotely. why not sell them off, convert them into affordable housing, use the proceeds of sale to pay off the deficit? And I can only think, imagine this beautiful vision. All of these wonderful, smiling families moving into new condos that will replace the soon-to-be empty CBC headquarters in Toronto.
That's a good line. That's a good line. He's going to use that one again.
Stop printing money, start building houses, Scotia with other things. You know, we've got millions of brilliant immigrants that come to this country every year with their talents and skills, and then local government gatekeepers prevent them from getting licenses to practice. That's why we don't have enough doctors. We have all these skilled doctors from abroad. They've already performed in other countries for many years, and then they're banned from their profession here by local gatekeepers. The federal government gives provinces immigration settlement money. Well, I'm going to start attaching strings to that. I'm going to insist that provinces, to get that money, bring in a 60-day guarantee. When a new immigrant applies to work in their profession or trade, they will be entitled to get a yes/no answer within 60 days based on their tested qualifications. And if they fall just short of meeting the Canadian standard, we're going to back up 30,000 private study loans to help them study up, get licensed to practice, so we have more doctors, more engineers, more plumbers, more electricians, more people. And we're going to remove the gatekeepers so that we can become an energy independent country again. Supply of oil on Earth, and yet we're importing 130,000 barrels of oil. Who's right? That means more money for dictators, right? And less money for our own people. Polluting foreign dictators profit off of all that foreign oil that Justin Trudeau supports. And I'm going to repeal the anti-energy bill C-69 so we can build pipelines for Canadians. Right across this country, not just in the West. In fact, I'm going to approve Newfoundland's plan to produce 400,000 barrels of extra oil every single day. And then, you know what we're going to do with that oil? We're going to use it to fully displace all of the overseas oil they're importing in New Brunswick, and within 5 years, I will ban dictator oil from Canada. Fund foreign interests in the energy sector or in any other sector. We're going to put our country, we're going to put our people back in charge of our country. And let me make it clear, my ministers will be banned from any involvement from the world with the World Economic Forum. They're going to have to renounce any past involvement and be involved in supporting their people. They should spend more time in pubs like this and less time at fancy Swiss ski villages abroad. If they want to go to Davos, they can make it a one-way ticket. We have to stand up for the hard-working, law-abiding people in this country. The problem is that this Prime Minister of ours, he always targets the wrong people. Think of it on the firearms issue, right? He wants to go after lawful, licensed, trained, and tested rifle owners here in Canada, the hunters and sport shooters who follow the law. Now, of course, he wants to spend $1 billion on a buyback. Do you think there's a single criminal in Canada that's going to hand over his firearm? Of course not. He's only going to spend $1 billion targeting the decent people who follow the law. Meanwhile, the Toronto police say that 80% of all the guns used in crime are smuggled in over the border. Less than 1% of the packages that come across the border are even inspected. So here's an idea. Why don't we take the $1 billion away from the targeted law-abiding people and put it into bolstering our borders so that we can protect ourselves against smuggled guns and then put the real criminals in jail? Trudeau's got this bill C11, which regulates excuse me, I'll tell you, thank you very much. I'd be happy to chat with you afterwards because I do believe in free speech and I'm going to have a lot of free speech for all of you. Would you like me to finish my speech, everybody? C11 would allow a government gatekeeping bureaucracy, the CRTC, to decide what shows up in your newsfeed and to ban people from posting certain things the government does not approve of. According to Twitter, the Twitter Corporation made a filing with our government and said that this and other policies the Trudeau government is putting forward will put us in a league that is no other democracy in the world has these rules. In fact, the only countries that have them are Iran, China, North Korea. That's the company we're keeping, right? Trudeau said that he does admire the basic Chinese communist dictatorship, right? He meant it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have something in our charter called Section 2B, the freedom of expression. So as Shakespeare would say, to be or not to be? That's the question. Here's my answer. I will stand up for freedom of expression and repeal all of Trudeau's censorship laws right when I take office. Is to put you back in charge of your life. Make this the freest country on earth. In the words of the great Canadian Prime Minister, John Diefenbaker, I am a Canadian, a free Canadian. Free to speak without fear. Free to stand for what I think right. Free to oppose what I think wrong. Free to worship God in my own way. Govern my country. Is this heritage of freedom I pledge to uphold for myself and for all of mankind. Thank you very much.
Everyone, just want everybody to know that Peter is going to go down here on the other side of the barn, take your time, he's going to get